Tonight, on this New Year's Eve, celebrations across the globe, bigger than we've seen in years. 2023 has already begun for billions. Fireworks across Paris, a huge party in Sydney's iconic harbor as Times Square gets ready for its big moment. But will the weather spoil the party? The streets flooded today in San Francisco. The unprecedented moment at the Vatican today. The first time in 600 years one pope paid tribute to another upon his passing. What Pope Benedict's death means for the future of the Catholic Church. Remembering a legend. Barbara Walters, the trailblazer who smashed through glass ceilings, what she said was her true legacy. The suspect in the murders of 4 Idaho college students has now waived extradition. New details on his studies in criminology. He asked former prisoners how they chose their victims. Fellow students tell us how he behaved in the weeks after the murders. And our correspondent one-on-one with the police chief and the suspect's lawyer.
Did he kill these 4 students?
And before you pop that bottle of champagne, tonight, watch our report in this blind tasting. Do people prefer a $200 bottle or one for just 18 bucks?
You both prefer the cheaper one.
This is NBC Nightly News with Jose Diaz-Balart.
Good evening. I'm Kristen Welker in for Jose. On this New Year's Eve, we are remembering 2 giants who left their mark on history. Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI and broadcasting legend Barbara Walters. While we pause to remember them, so much of the world is marking new beginnings. And the celebrations, some of the biggest we've seen in years. This is a live look at Times Square, where the crowds are already packing in. They're braving the rain, which doesn't seem to be dampening spirits. We've already seen some countries ring in the new year, from Hong Kong to Dubai. And as the countdown clock starts here, Stephanie Gosk has the latest on the pomp and preparations.
Let the celebrations begin. With COVID's grip on the world loosening, it's time to ring in the new year the way it should be done, with fireworks in Australia and Bangkok, Thailand, temple bells in Japan. In New York City's Times Square, rain in the forecast did little to deter the revelers. Where are you guys from?
I'm from Brazil.
Brazil.
Colombia.
Colombia.
Mexico.
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 Taiwan.
Taiwan. Anxiously awaiting the first celebrations without COVID restrictions since the pandemic began. Like 9.5 hours to go.
Yeah.
The NYPD out en masse today. Thousands of uniformed and plainclothes officers securing the streets. Dozens of sanitation trucks blocking access. Inside the barricades, no coolers or large bags. And no umbrellas.
The weather's not that great, but the scenery is absolutely amazing.
Festive hats will have to be enough to protect the crowd from the rain. While out on the West Coast, the weather is more than just a nuisance. 31 million people in California and Nevada are under flood alerts.
It's just ugly.
The second wettest day ever in San Francisco, triggering mudslides. An evacuation order issued in Santa Cruz County. Workers are clearing streets after strong winds brought trees down. But in Times Square, the wind should cooperate, even if the rain does not. All eyes trained on the Waterford crystal ball, ready to welcome 2023.
And Stephanie Gosk joins us from the center of it all, Times Square. So, Steph, do they have any sense of how big the crowds are actually going to be this year?
Yeah, they do. They estimate more than 100,000 people will be here this year. That's a far cry from last year during the Omicron surge when there were just 15,000. The year before that, the public wasn't invited at all. So it's really nice to look out here and see Times Square back to life on New Year's Eve. Kristen?
It certainly is. Stephanie Gosk, thank you so much. Hope you can stay relatively dry. All right, now to our other big story. Today marks an historic turning point for the world's 1 billion Catholics. Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI passed away this morning at the age of 95. He became the first pope in more than 600 years to resign. His death now putting a spotlight on his service and raising new questions about the future of the current pope. Molly Hunter reports from the Vatican.
Tonight, the only living pope offering his first tribute to his predecessor, the Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, in his final prayer service of 2022. With emotion, said Francis, we remember his character so noble, so kind. The two men with wildly different worldviews and visions of the church, but tonight, the faithful offering their prayers.
It's really special being here for the Vespers, especially with the current Pope Francis, knowing that we were praying together with the current Pope, and even while we're mourning the last Pope, it's sort of joyful.
The Holy See press office says on Monday the body of the Pope Emeritus will lie in St. Peter's Basilica. On Thursday, the funeral mass will take place out in St. Peter's Square. And for the first time in more than 600 years, a former pontiff's funeral will be presided over by the current pontiff.
This will be unlike anything the church has witnessed. It's going to be a moment that is not quite like past papal funerals.
Today, tributes from around the world pouring in. President Biden, only the second American Catholic president, recalling a visit to the White House, offering his prayers. May his focus on the ministry of charity continue to be an inspiration to us all. And in New York, Cardinal Timothy Dolan reflecting this morning.
In the unity of the Holy Spirit.
Benedict was known as a powerful intellectual. Born Joseph Ratzinger in 1927, he was the first German pope in more than 1,000 years. But his controversial legacy defined by his retirement in 2013, stepping away from a job for life. A strict conservative who put hot-button political issues at the center of his papacy, opposing same-sex marriage and women priests. During his 8 years in office, his tenure roiled by scandal, from alleged financial corruption inside the Vatican bureaucracy, which the Vatican denied, to alleged sex abuse cover-up. Critics say he shied away from holding bishops accountable for shuffling abusive priests from assignment to assignment. He acknowledged abuses and errors, but denied any misconduct. He lived out his retirement as planned behind Vatican City walls, only occasionally rearing his head.
For some people, detractors of Pope Francis, they sort of use this as a chance to sort of draw battle lines and sort of say that they were with the former Pope, if you will, and wanting to emphasize his priorities and not that of the current Pope of Pope Francis. That ends now.
In his own farewell, a spiritual testament Benedict penned in August 2006, but released today, he asks for forgiveness from the bottom of my heart from all those whom I have wronged in some way, and encouraged believers to stand firm in the faith. Do not be confused.
The faithful undoubtedly paying close attention to that. Molly is at the Vatican now, where New Year's fireworks are currently going off. And Molly, the passing of Benedict may force the Catholic Church to rewrite the rules on retirement. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Kristen, that's exactly right. And you can hear these fireworks going off for the new year. But that is the debate here, whether or not the church takes this moment to normalize the retirement of a pontiff. So figure out what the title would be, where that person would live, even the wardrobe, and whether they really take the moment to create a set of rules, of procedures that creates a real pathway for Francis or future popes to consider. Kristen?
A monumental New Year's there at the Vatican. Molly Hunter, thank you. Well, tonight we are also remembering trailblazing journalist Barbara Walters, who died yesterday at age 93. She was an icon, a bold and brilliant reporter who paved the way for generations of women in the media. Blaine Alexander now on Walters' remarkable legacy.
It was her innate ability to get to the heart of a question.
Your Highness, I must ask you the question that most Americans want to know about you. Are you happy?
And her competitive grit to get the interview that made Barbara Walters a pioneer, oftentimes asking the questions many wouldn't dare.
You showed the President of the United States your thong underwear. Where did you get the nerve?
Barbara is with me.
For more than 5 decades, she was a force on television, grilling everyone from U.S. presidents.
Are you sorry you didn't burn the tapes?
Yes, I think so.
To movie stars.
You did an interview in which you said, not the worst thing to slap a woman now and then. As I remember, you said you don't do it with a clenched fist. It's better to do it with an open hand. Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
And everybody in between.
I'm just a normal kid.
Oh, Eric, you're a normal kid who killed your parents.
Walters didn't just break barriers, she demolished them.
I'm Barbara Walters of the NBC News Center here in New York.
In 1974, she became the first female co-host of Today. 2 years later, ABC made her the first woman to anchor an evening news broadcast.
In those days, nobody thought it was possible.
A celebrated milestone, though not by her male co-anchor.
Harry Reasoner did not want a partner. If he was going to have a partner, he certainly didn't want me. He didn't want someone without that, quote, hard news background, and he certainly didn't want a woman.
But I've kept time on your stories and mine tonight. You owe me 4 minutes.
Still, she continued to rise and shine, scoring interview after interview through her primetime specials and as host of 2020.
Always wanted to do a show with different generations of women with different backgrounds.
In 1997, Walters created The View.
Do you really think that being on the show with a bunch of women, 5 women, who never shut up is going to be calming?
That is the... Look, I was trying to find a show that Michelle actually watched.
But perhaps her greatest legacy, forging a path for so many female journalists to follow.
We all proudly stand on your shoulders, Barbara Walters.
That's why, on her final appearance on The View,
Hoda Kotb, Jane Pauley, Gayle King.
one by one, they came to say thank you. Those tributes continue today. President Biden praising her as an example of bravery and truth, breaking barriers while driving our nation forward. Oprah wrote, "I did my very first television audition with her in mind the whole time." From Savannah Guthrie, thank you, Barbara. You showed the way. And from Andrea Mitchell, she became a mentor and a friend to me and so many others fortunate enough to know her.
I didn't start out to do it to prove anything. I wasn't doing it because I wanted to be the biggest or the best.
But for the many who watched, that's exactly what she was.
This is my legacy. These are my legacy. And I thank you all of you.
And Barbara Walters, we thank you for your trailblazing spirit and your unquenchable curiosity that informed a nation. Blaine Alexander, NBC News.
Indeed, we are all saluting her tonight. And still ahead, our interview with the lawyer for the man accused of killing 4 Idaho college students. Did the suspect claim he's innocent? Tonight, we're learning more about the suspect in that shocking murder of 4 Idaho college students and new questions about whether his graduate studies in criminology are a clue for a possible motive. Dana Griffin reports from Musco, Idaho.
The man accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death plans to waive extradition to get back to Idaho as soon as possible. According to his public defender for the extradition hearing in Pennsylvania, Brian Kohlberger was shocked by his arrest and says he's eager to be exonerated.
He was aware of the ongoing investigation of the death of the 4 individuals, but he denied, I guess he would say that he implicitly denied any involvement.
Did he kill these 4 students?
I would say at this point, no, but he did not specifically say that, nor did I ask that question.
According to 2 law enforcement sources familiar with the investigation, DNA evidence, and specifically forensic genealogy, was key to honing in on their suspect. Are there any other suspects, or are you 100% certain this is your guy?
I am certain this is our guy.
No doubts?
No doubts.
Police Chief James Fry also making this promise.
Yeah, when we get to where we can release information, I think people are going to go, okay, that makes more sense now why they held everything and why they did what they did.
Tonight, new details are emerging about the suspect's background. DeSales University in Pennsylvania confirming Kohlberger was an undergrad student and got his master's in criminal justice. Several months ago on Reddit, a student investigator with the name Brian Kohlberger invited ex-cons to participate in a research study to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime.
We're following up on everything. Facebook, Reddit, you name any social media or anything out there.
In recent months, Kohlberger was working towards a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University, less than 10 miles from the University of Idaho. Former WSU grad student and classmate B.K. Norton tells NBC News, Brian seemed odd from the beginning, but I thought it was because he was awkward, adding he continued to attend classes and continued on like nothing had happened. I still can't wrap my head around it. As Moscow police contend with one of their most difficult cases in years, the chief emotional and grateful for his officers.
They work hard, they did it right, and the investigators and all of the team we brought in did it right, and I'm proud of them.
Incredibly revealing interviews there. Dana joins us. Dana, we're also learning new details about the suspect's arrest. What can you tell us about that?
So according to his public defender, Kohlberger was home with his parents when they got a knock at the door around 3 a.m. Friday. Their home surrounded by police. He says they were cooperative, but taken aback. Kristen?
All right, Dana Griffin. Dana, thank you. Well, still ahead, we put bargain bubbly up against one that cost hundreds more. Think you could tell the difference? What our blind tasters chose. As you make your toast to the new year tonight, would you really know if you were drinking expensive champagne or the cheap stuff instead? Joe Fryer puts that question to the test.
4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Yeah!
No doubt New Year's revelers hope 2023 sparkles like a glass of sparkling wine.
I love it.
Whether it's spendy champagne,
like the bubbliness of it,
or a cheaper option.
So can shoppers really tell the difference? We came here to Astor Wines in New York City to find out what customers prefer.
Volunteers sip from a bottle of Dom Perignon that costs more than $200 and an $18 bottle of Cava without knowing which is which.
I do like that.
Until I told them.
You both prefer the cheaper one. Is in fact the less expensive Cava. The one you prefer is the cheaper bottle of Cava.
Oh, okay. I feel like I would just enjoy it for a longer period of time.
Which was fine by them.
Yeah, I'm good with the cheap stuff.
Though some did prefer the pricier option.
I like this one. Wow.
More than $200 a bottle.
Wow. Okay.
You have expensive tastes.
I guess I do. Yeah. I do have expensive taste.
But what if you have more economical taste?
For someone who doesn't want to pay a lot of money for an expensive bottle of champagne, but they might feel guilty over paying much less, what's your advice to them?
I would say don't feel guilty. There's great sparkling wine from around the world at a variety of price points. Oh, that's my favorite.
Wine consultant Kelly Mitchell told us what you do get when you spend that extra cash.
With champagne, you're dealing with the prestige and the luxury brand of the category itself.
Last year, champagne sales reached an all-time high, more than $6 billion. And it's important to know not all sparkling wines can be called champagne, only those produced in the Champagne region of France.
Cheers.
Something these two know well. They're from France.
Which one do you prefer?
This one.
And most definitely like the champagne.
This reminds me more of Christmas.
Rachel Zakella, along with her dog Luigi, is confident she knows the difference between more expensive and cheaper sparkling wines.
I like to think that I do since I buy expensive ones all the time.
Yet she preferred the cup.
I think I like this one better, maybe. Really?
You picked the cheaper one.
Oh my goodness.
Is there a lesson here?
Yeah, and the lesson is don't be such a snob.
Not a bad resolution for us all.
Cheers. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Joe Fryer, NBC News, New York.
As long as it's cold and bubbly, right? Well, when we come back, it was the year the world came back together. The amazing surprise reunions all caught on camera. Well, there's not just good news tonight, but there was so much good news last year. 2022 was the year the world came back together in surprising ways, at long last, to make new memories with loved ones. They are the moments of joy we so desperately missed.
Are you kidding me?
The surprises that finally happened in 2022 after so much time apart during the pandemic.
Surprise! We surprised you! You surprised me! Oh my golly!
Chances to reconnect and reflect. To finally gather and do all the things we'd hoped for. Like the concerts we couldn't wait to see. And the proposals.
He said yes!
In front of friends and family.
It's been postponed twice.
There were the wedding celebrations that had been put on hold. And at long last, those first dances. There were long-delayed trips.
What does it say? Disney?
Rewards for the little ones who'd been so patient.
First trip since COVID. Little surprise.
This South Carolina mom took her son to see the City of Lights.
Told the family that we were coming for Christmas, are surprising them for Thanksgiving. Haven't seen them in 2 years.
Casey Holliday, his wife and 3 kids, made the grueling trip from Australia to California.
Surprise!
For his mom, Carol, it meant the world.
It boils down to just the joy and the unexpected.
I think it's cherish the time that you have with the people close to you.
Old friends Shannon Rowell and Megan Cormie moved 1,400 miles apart during the pandemic. Their little girls, Macy and Peyton, best friends too. The women surprising their little ones with this reunion.
We're looking at them and we're both just crying, and it just was the most amazing feeling.
I know she needed her best friend. So I just want her to know that the world is like a really good place.
That is what it's all about, coming together. And we would like to wish you all a wonderful 2023. Thank you so much for joining us. That is NBC Nightly News for this Saturday. I'm Kristen Welker. Have a happy new year and a great night.